Alrighty, folks. Welcome to FIYAH Mag first little author interview. We're super excited here. Have you, Yvette. But really quickly, I'm gonna give a quick intro about who I am. My name's Christian Michael Ivy. I also known as AG Dub on social media, and I'm the art director and social media manager for FIYAH Mag. And I'm gonna be guest editing the Belongi issue. So folks, send some submissions. But yeah, today here we're gonna have our first little author interview. Wanted to do something to kind of engage with folks who have like published in FIYAH or supporters of FIYAH or like FIYAH has some sort of impact in their lives and just sort of like keep that ecosystem and alive and sort of like I don't know, maybe answer the questions or ask questions that sometimes like maybe Black writers are more curious about or seems like very I don't know, mysterious or something like that. Yeah, the idea is that hopefully we can chit chat and get to know Yvette a little bit more about like the process and what it takes to finish a collection and get it out there to the world. I mean, I want one out there, so I feel like everyone else is gonna be eagerly waiting some of this as well. Alrighty. So we're gonna move on a little bit. Yvette, can you give us a little intro? I feel like no one could do it better than the person themselves. So it's like I don't even want to try to outdo you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited. I love fire, so to be here is pretty great. My name is Yvette Lisa Ndlovu. I am the author of the short story collection Drinking from Graveyard Wells. This is an Afro-surrealist genre-bending collection that blurs the lines between social horror, Afro-surrealism, and fantasy to tell the story of Black women taking on the patriarchy and capitalism. I am currently finishing up my MFA at UMass Amherst, and I'm also the co-founder of the Voodoonauts Summer Fellowship for Black writers.
Hey, see, I couldn't have done it better.
You're good.
Alrighty.
You're good.
So we get right into it. The question that everybody wants to know: what is your superpower?
And I love that question. The one that I would love to have is teleportation because I hate borders and air travel, especially on an African passport. That is hell to travel. So that's the one I would love to have. But I think my superpower is world bending. So as an Afro-surrealist, I'm always, bending realities and creating new worlds.
That's real. I was like, I'm hoping to sort of get that as one of our themes for FIYAH as immigration, migration.
Ooh,
I'm like, I'm dropping
yeah.
seeds, so hopefully that could come up soon. I think
Oh,
that'd be a really good sort of thing to talk
that would be so dope. I would submit to that.
about.
That would be
Don't say that. Okay. All right, great. So the next question to follow up to the superpower is how do you use that to change the world?
Mm. So in my work, it's mostly Afro-surrealism, and I create worlds that are our world but different because Afro-surrealism is about telling the narrative of the contemporary Black experience. These experiences being, so absurd and so horrific that they seem unreal and untrue, but they are real. I think Get Out by Jordan Peele, does a good, job of that with the second place. I kind of tap into that to critique system to talk about, what it's like being a woman, to talk about the dictatorship in Zimbabwe. So just using the absurd and the surreal to talk about the very real things that you experience in the world as a Black woman.
Yeah. And we see that happening like really a lot more lately with the Afro surrealism. I think the last season of Atlanta like took that as like a theme a lot. And
Yeah.
what is it?
What was your
Random
favorite
Act
episode?
kind of has like surrealism too a lot.
Yeah.
So it's interesting seeing these things kind of come into play. I thought the last season of Atlanta was pretty good. I kind of fell off of it, but the last season I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like tongue in cheek a little bit, but yeah, it's still transgressing a little bit. It's not, yeah, I would just like, and it's not, I don't think as violent for violence. And I thought that was pretty,
Mm.
so it's great to see it in like I feel like a story form. I feel like we've been, I think sometimes we get like blocked into like the Afrofuturist route or like that
Mm,
sort of like space fantasy with like black people or whatever like that. But I like it interesting in how you, like you said, it seems like this isn't real, but it's showing up, it's coming into play there. And it has a very certain like certain theme to it that just like I think grounds your stories really well. So speaking of that, I'm gonna just read a quick little excerpt from Kentucky Press about the description of drinking from graveyard wells. So it says, even in death, who has ownership over Black women's bodies? Questions like this lurk between the lines of the stunning collection of stories that engage with African women's histories, both personal and generational. Their history is not just one thing. There is heartbreak and pain and joy and flying and magic, so much magic. An avenging spirit takes on the patriarchy from beyond the grave. An immigrant woman undergoes a naturalization ceremony in an imagined American state that demands that immigrants pay a toll of the thing they love the most. A first generation Zimbabwe American woman haunted by generational trauma is willing to pay the ultimate price to take her pain away, giving up her memories. A neighborhood gossip wakes up to find that houses are mysteriously vanished in the night. A shape-shifting freedom fighter leaves a legacy of resistance to her granddaughter. In Drinking from the Graveyard Wells, Yvette assembles poignant, reflective stories that center the voices of African women charting their own Black history through the ages. Stories play with genre from softly surreal to deeply fantastical. Each narrative is wrapped in the literary eloquence and tradition of Southern African mythology, transporting readers into the lives of African women who have fought across space and time to be seen. Drawing on her own early experience as a Zimbabwean living under the Mugabe, that's it right? Pronounce it right?
yeah, Mugabe.
Mugabe,
Yeah,
okay.
Mugabe. Yeah.
Mugabe dictatorship. Stories are grounded in truth and empathy. Bowley offers up alternative interpretations of past and present that speculates upon the everyday lives of people disregarded. Her words explore the erasure of African women while highlighting their beauty and limitless magic. Immersed in worlds both fantastical and familiar, readers find themselves walking alongside these women, grieving their pain and celebrating their joy, all against the textured backdrop of Zimbabwe. So if that didn't convince you to already go buy it and read it, then I don't know what to tell y'all. Like I was like, okay, maybe it might not be as accurate, but no, that's exactly what you're gonna get. And it's like it was really worth it. I feel like every page. Sorry, really quick. It was a couple things happening. Okay, so after that, so now that we got into that, we're gonna move into our next question, which is what I'm super interested in hear what you have to say. So, do you have a favorite story or a favorite character from the collection?
So yeah, I think those are two different stories actually. So my favorite story is Home Became a Thing with Thorns, which explores the surreal experience of being an immigrant. And then my favorite character is from another story, which is the title story, Drinking from Graveyard Wells. And that one, she's a neighborhood gossip who wakes up to find that, houses in the neighborhood are disappearing. So yeah, that's, my favorite story and then my favorite character.
Okay, so can you pick one to give us a couple of lines from or a
Yeah.
couple of pages?
Yeah, of course. I can read from the beginning of Home Became a Thing with Thorns. Home became a thing with thorns. They take Jabu's eyes on a Tuesday morning. The snowflakes fall with an obscene tenderness outside. We're inside a
Oh wait,
sterile
Yvette, I don't
government
think we can
building.
hear you.
Oh, have you lost my?
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me?
No, it's just me. Sorry. Oh my goodness.
Oh, okay. Oh, should I start again? Probably from the beginning.
Yeah, sorry.
Home became a thing with thorns. You can hear me? All right, perfect. They take Jabu's eyes on a Tuesday morning. The snowflakes fall with an obscene tenderness outside. We're inside a sterile government building that looks like a cross between a DMV and a church. The building seems to be designed to keep any warmth out, lest the critters inside get comfortable. It is the kind of cold that takes hold of your bones and refuses to let go. My friend Jabu is a painter. With the stroke of a brush, he can put rainbows to shame. He likes to paint our homeland, the beautiful blue sky we left behind when home became a thing with thorns. The naturalization priest lays a hand over Jabu's eyes. And just like that, Jabu's beautiful brown eyes vanish as if they've never existed. The spot where his eyes used to be is as smooth as an arm. Jabu collapses to the ground and retches on all fours into a plastic bin. Jabu isn't the first to vomit during a naturalization ceremony, so the priests always have those little plastic bins stationed at every corner of the building. The naturalization priest's face sours, like it might if he spotted a fat rat scurrying into his kitchen. Jabu retches until there's nothing left to come out of him anymore. He dry heaves and wails for the rest of the ceremony. He can't even cry. They took his eyes. One never knows what the naturalization priests are going to take from a quere quere. The only thing that we do know is that they will take something that you love. I remember my conversation with Jabu before the naturalization ceremony. I won't be a quere quere anymore, he'd say, his eyes lighting up at the prospect of his dreams coming together like pieces of a puzzle to a decent life. When I'm a citizen, I will take shifts at the power plant during the day and then paint at night. I'll save up to open up my own gallery. You'll see. I can't wait to brag to everybody that I have a friend with a gallery, I say. I watch Jabu on the floor now. The rest of the earth are not meant to make art. We're supposed to be too busy surviving. The corners of the priest's mouth twitch upwards in delight at the humiliation. Another quere quere showing his face. Even though I too want to stump to the ground, I move towards Jabu and help him up. Come on, Jabu, I say, stop it. I know it's cruel, but I have to be the stronger one. I can't let Jabu end up like Asha. God forbid he ends up like Asha. You're a citizen now, I remind him, giving him a squeeze. Forget your eyes. Were a small price to pay. They took, he whimpers, still unable to fully comprehend what happened. My eyes. You can find other ways to make art, Jabu, I say, pulling his hair back so he can rest some more. Others have it worse, please. I don't want you to end up like Asha was our friend. While we all picked up the new language and tried to iron out our old accents, like pressing the wrinkles out of clothing, Asha refused to learn the new tongue. It was a form of resistance. This place would take from us anyway, Asha said. Why not hold on to something? Then the naturalization priest took her language. No longer could she sing Stella Chiweshe and Leonard Dembo songs that reminded us of the old weddings and parties from the homeland before everything was lost. She didn't eat for a month after she got her citizenship. We found her hanging from the ceiling on a Sunday night. It could be worse, I say, trying to convince myself more than him. The naturalization priests don't only take body parts and voices, they can take away joy, names, love, beauty, songs, laughter, family recipes, music, and so much more. I shudder to think about it. But that is the price of citizenship. And I'll stop there.
Yeah. This I think this may be my favorite one from the collection as well. I loved it, especially the ending. I was like, oh, I was
Thank
just
you.
screaming. I was just like, I thought I knew maybe what they were going to take away, but what they took away, and then the reveal of it, with him after the risk that she took for him, and then it's like, I thought it was like a perfect sort of analogy for like what you have to like give up to be like American or any sort of Western sort of or any national, what you have to give up to be that national, or the citizen for that nationality or whatever like that. And it's always like, yeah, like what you don't think you realize or what can be maybe visibly seen unless you step back and like realize it. And so I thought that was like a very good analogy for that. Like just like everyone don't know what the price is going to take to be like who they want to be or to live like where they want to live. And in this case, it was like it had, sort of a supernatural, speculative version to it. But I thought it was great. That was amazing. I'm telling you, I
Thank
screamed at
you.
the end.
I
I can see it as
appreciate
like a
that.
little short or like a movie because it was just like it's like
Yeah.
just enough like where you're there with them a little bit and you're like, okay, something's bad gonna happen, but you think it'll be okay. You think I mean, I guess it's gonna be okay, whatever. But yeah, it's like you would think it'd be okay for them. But what, when it take we think about it with relationships like that really changed it. And I feel like you kind of hinted a little bit where about Asha's like death, like she, even though she's not there physically with them, she is still with her relationship with is through the living basically. And so she still shows up in sort of a way. And like I feel like that was like really good foreshadow for us a little bit. So that was I thought you really set that up like amazing. I'm just giving you all of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, it was great. I guess some of the things I'm thinking about with that particularly, like I guess I want to hear like a little bit like why it is your favorite. I mean, like I'll just gush about why I love it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I poured a lot of myself into that story because, I'm, a Zimbabwean living abroad. I have friends and family who've also immigrated to different parts of the world. And, it takes a toll on all of us. So, I was, kind of frustrated in my own process, frustrated on behalf of my loved ones. And so I kind of poured all of that, there's so much that you give up, and thinking about the family separations, happening at the border, thinking about all these different things, and putting it all in the story. And like again, I always talk about Afro-journalism, how you can use magic to talk about the mundane horrors of the real world. And I think one of those is the immigration systems that we currently have, where children are separated from their parents, where you have to give up your language, you have to give up your food, you have to give up so much stuff uh, in order to assimilate, in order to be accepted by a new homeland. And that is horrific. And I wanted to kind of capture the horrors of that system.
I'm telling you, it's really bravo. Like, especially the little bit that she's teaching them to. And it's like, you see that a lot now. Like when I was growing up, it was a lot of folks like, they wasn't letting their kids learn Spanish, or I had to go to like speech therapy so I can like not speak like my granny and speak more like how you're supposed to be
Yeah.
speaking in school. So they used to put like like a wooden thing in your mouth to hold your tongue down and like
Oh,
all that type of stuff.
wow.
And so it was really reminding me of some of that, of like what we, and this is like, now once you do that, you're smart, now they're like, I'm smart, whatever. So it's like, it's very interesting. Like you said, some of the things we gotta give up. Like, and it's like, I don't know if I can even speak like that anymore because it's been, so long of like, and then going through the process in elementary school. But yeah, I thought this was great. I'm like, I could just definitely see it getting some nominations. It also reminded me of that, it gave me like that Octavia Butler vibes to one, the free speech where the kids can't
Oh,
speak and she
which one's
saves
that one?
them. It's like it's this one that she's riding a bus and the people can't stay. Something happened, people can't speak. And she's like riding a bus or something. And some guy gets
Oh.
off or whatever, some stuff happened. But it's like some kids, they're like, she wants to like make it to go see her family on the other side of the country, but they can't, everybody can't speak, so it's whatever. But anyway, some kids come out, some fighting, some people die, but the kids can speak. And she's like, she has this like this purpose now that she's like, I'm not just gonna try to make it to maybe my family who could be alive who can't speak. I have something new to live for. But it made me seem like what she didn't have a choice whether she gave up her speech, but like her choice was to continue on in some sort of way, where she was just aimlessly kind of going from back and forth. But it was just like I felt like it was she was put in a position where she didn't she was reacting, and not only in a way like from the violence that was like, because it was like she was a woman, so they was approaching her like aggressively, sexually, like that, and things like, but they couldn't speak, so everything was kind of like, I mean, she doesn't tell you that right away, but it's kind of like in a weird way. And so yeah, it reminded me of that. Like just like how it was like mundane, and it was like kind of slice of lifey. I'm a fan of slice of life kind of a little bit. So
Same.
maybe I'm just a little biased with that. But yeah, I felt like
Mm.
that sort of vibe, like uh you like with the reveal at the end, it doesn't it like gets you, but like you don't, it's not like a super actiony moment, or it's not like a super brutal, like violent moment or anything like that, but it still has the depth and the like the weight of, I think, what would be just as like relative to some of those high action points or high conflict points, work really well. But yeah, I think there's just another one that doesn't necessarily have like a super hardcore conflict, but it continues on, and it's about like relationships, which I felt like
Mm.
that was like the part that really got me about your story, is that relationship. I fell in love with them like that fast. I was like, oh, these are my new friends, because they work
Yeah.
really well together. You kind of like, and then like when she had to make the choice to get rid of the eyes, I kind of like I felt it for her a little bit. Like, okay, this is your job, you're getting paid. You don't want to even sort of mess it up. But at the same time, this is like your best friend slash probably like life partner, you know? And then
Mm,
it's like this is why
yeah.
the priest took it from the it was good. I'm telling you, I can see it getting nominated. It's really good.
Thank you.
Okay, and before I guess we move on to the next question. Really quickly, just to go back to the chapter or the short story Drinking from the Graveyard Wells, you said that was your favorite character. I just want to, can
Yeah.
you just like, yeah, give us a little elaboration on that? Just for folks who may have not made it to that last one yet, or like, yeah, it's
Mm.
just to give a little inspiration behind like this title chapter or title book sort of situation.
Yeah, so Drinking from Graveyard Wells is the last story in the collection, and it's about the neighborhood gossip who wakes up to find that houses are disappearing in the neighborhood. And the question is, where are these houses going? And, whose house is next? Because every night, one house disappears. And in the story, I'm exploring gentrification and neocolonialism and how an entire neighborhood can disappear and nobody bats an eye, nobody notices. It's just another Tuesday, basically. Yet violence is being visited upon this community.
Alrighty. So our next question is, what are your top two best experiences and then the top
Yeah.
two worst experiences
Mm.
about the whole process? So yeah, I know there's a lot, but yeah.
I think most recently, I think my best experience has been being tagged in photos and videos of people receiving copies of their books. That has been really magical. I've seen some people try to match their outfits and makeup to the book cover, which
Aw.
has been fun to see from readers doing that. So just connecting with readers that way has been, I think, one of the best things so far. And then also choosing the cover during the process. I had a lot of creative freedom in choosing a cover artist and the cover art, so I loved that part. I feel super blessed to have had an African cover artist work on the cover. In terms of worst experience, I think the publishing industry in general is just like a waiting game. You have to have a lot of patience. Publishing a book takes 2 years. There's a lot of waiting for everything to happen. Waiting for the cover, waiting for the edits, waiting for the announcements, waiting for the publication date. So it's a whole lot of hurry up and wait. So I think that's kind of like kind of taught me patience a little bit there.
I think that's real. It kind of I feel like you get a little bit of that with the short fiction game. It kind of is like kind of
Mm,
seemed like it prepares you for this like kind of ongoing away
yeah.
sort of situation. But then it seemed like it comes and then it's like it's here. And then it's like before
Mm,
you know it. So that's exciting. Okay. So our next question is did you already know that this would be like your debut? Like this would be like the first book? Like from like maybe
no,
when you first started or like
no, actually, because I thought, it would be a novel. I'm currently
Mhm.
working on an epic fantasy novel, and I always thought that would be the first book. And I've also heard that, nobody publishes short story collections anymore.
Mhm.
Publishers don't find it profitable. It's, not worth your time to work on short stories rather work on a novel. That's, kind of like the things I've heard in the past. So I've been, writing stories. I've been submitting to submission calls, FIYAH, other
Mhm.
magazines, and then it kind of turned into this body of work. And then I found a publisher that was excited about a short story collection, excited about the things that I was writing about, and then the rest is history. But yeah, I always thought it would be a novel, the novel that I'm currently working on.
Okay, and so it was like, what was the, I guess the point? Because I think maybe we all do. I guess see that. That's how I guess I see it in my head too. But I feel like we're starting to see a little bit of that now. The short story collection, or you get the novel and the short story as a two sort of deal. Like, what was like? I
Mm-hmm.
guess maybe like the deciding factor that you were going to push forward with the short story collection instead of necessarily focusing on the epic fantasy. Or not necessarily not focusing on it, but you know what I mean, like this is going to be the book, I guess, now. And like, we're still working on this instead of like vice versa.
Yeah, I think with the novel, I need more time with it to develop it in a way that I want my voice to be before I send it out to the world. So this year I'm still working on edits to make it what it needs to be, and it's from three characters' point of view. So it's become this kind of fat big project. So I need to take my my time with it, and with the collection. It had been pretty polished. I'd been, working on the stories for a while, and it was ready to go out.
Okay, so it was just like you were just submitting and building like short story collections, and then you just had short stories, and you just had a collect or sort of thematically a collection. I think that makes sense too, because like you could build up your collection while you keep submitting stuff as the process goes on, and just because it doesn't get rejected doesn't mean it won't have a place somewhere. I think that's another way
Yeah.
to look at it too. No, you're
Yeah,
enlightening me.
exactly.
You're giving me a. I'm
Yeah,
so
because some
bad
of
with
the
the
stories,
rejection and the waiting game. I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm
it's
like
sad.
just
So some of the
enemy
stories
now.
rejected. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our next question is, oh, I asked this one because I seen you had a post with Devon and the Use Me and
Mm,
FIYAH and stuff like that. So yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about the relationship between FIYAH and Voodoonauts and yourself? I know a little bit 'cause LP
mm.
told me, but just in case everyone
Yeah.
some of the deets.
Yeah, I think FIYAH and Voodoonauts are kind of like cousins, kind of like this sibling relationship, cousin relationship. Actually, my first pro rate publication was through FIYAH, and it's the first story in the collection. Actually, Red Cloth, White Giraffe was first published by FIYAH, and I worked with Devon on that piece, and it was great working with him. It was so affirming. Before then, I'd been actually writing literary fiction, so it was all realist. There was no speculative elements. And then just being published by FIYAH gave me the confidence to kind of write more speculative story and kind of push the boundaries there a little bit. And I think FIYAH has done so much. FIYAH is the blueprint for what we're trying to do with Voodoonauts, where you have this organization that is debunking that assumption that Black people do not read fantasy and they do not write fantasy and science fiction. And so FIYAH was the blueprint, and we looked at it like, oh, okay, we can do that. FIYAH is doing that, so we created a fellowship. And a lot of people who've been published in FIYAH are now Voodoonauts fellows, as well as editors as well have come and now fellows, and they taught at FIYAH at Voodoonauts. So it's kind of like this sibling cousin relationship. But I think I owe a lot to FIYAH, and a lot of Black writers do, because it's kind of like the first time we had this space where you could see the depth and breadth of Black science fiction after we'd been told for so long that, oh, the reason why we don't, publish Black people is because there are no Black people doing this thing, which is not true at all. And FIYAH is leading in debunking that.
Yeah, oh thanks. I mean, we're on it's gonna be 26 issues coming out next month, which is kind of wild. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
And what year or what issue did you get published in?
2020, volume 15.
Okay, volume 15.
Yeah.
Make sure y'all go cop it, check it out.
Yes. And the covers are so beautiful. I always look forward to that cover review. I'm like, okay, what are they cooking up? What are they cooking up this month?
I'm always like, it's one of the things like I inherited from Eleanor. I always try to I try to shake it up a little bit, but also like make sure I keep her impressed, or let her know that she didn't pass them up to in bad hands. And so yeah, I can't wait to show y'all the rest of them. Like I said, I did a little bit of traditional, and I wanted to push it a little bit from what Elle did. I felt like L's were great. They were very poster colorful, and they're very beautiful. And I felt like they were just stood out from all the other science fiction and fantasy ones. And I was like, okay, she's already done. I feel like what I would consider the basis, or what I would try to do. So it's how can I add some edge to this, or how can I
Yeah.
maybe shake some of it up, and like how can we get some different sort of like fine artists and like collage artists and just like big names and small names, like just to sort of keep that ecosystem growing, like you're saying. It's just like I just think it's like the covers are like one of the ways, or like in the portal into like this writing that's there. And so yeah, I'm hoping to sort of collab with some like I said, some bigger names, some smaller names, and like really give y'all some like new diverse stuff too as well. So I'm really like glad that the covers are like a huge part, because I feel like that's a huge important element to spec fic that usually gets left out, or gets like, oh, this is the side thing. Like if you're not making a graphic novel or a comic, it's like the image or the whatever is not as important. But I feel like it gives that like a cover. It's like a something to like, like especially if we do one like based off of one of the stories or something like that. Maybe I could be a future sort of like thing. I don't know. I'm trying to like expand it a little bit more, see if we can add some things. But yeah, I think we want to try to like showcase just as much. We showcase writers, showcase illustrators, and like that relationship is like valuable that we pair together to sort of like create this sort of ecosystem of Black writers and like creatives. So yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Oh,
Um,
that's dope.
I know, yeah, and thinking about like you said, what you're like doing, was that your first time? Well, you did it with the Voodoonauts anthology too, right? As like a basically a kind of art director, sort of. Or
Yeah, so the cover artist for the Voodoonauts was Paul Lewin, done like a lot of I think Octavia Butler's new book covers
yeah, super
from
talented.
yeah. So we're super grateful to have that artwork.
Yeah, it looks good. Is that like a theme for you, like blue? Like that's like your color, or?
You know what? It actually turned out that way, but it wasn't intentional, I promise.
No, it works. It's thematic. It's thematic. It really does
Yeah.
work. I'm into it. No. Okay. So our next question is, can you tell us what to expect from you in the future, near or far?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm currently working on an epic fantasy novel that's loosely based off of pre-colonial Southern African kingdom, which is the Great Zimbabwe Kingdom in the Mutapa Empire. And you can go look at the photos of these stone ruins in Zimbabwe, which are really really beautiful. So I wanted to set the fantasy in that space. And when we were colonized by first the Portuguese and then the British, they claimed that it wasn't indigenous Africans that built these stone cities. It was, aliens, it was, biblical figures. It couldn't have been Black people that that built these structures. So I wanted to kind of base my world building and my world in that space. And it's about three Black girls taking on the gods and the patriarchy as always. And then hopefully we're gonna have another year of Voodoonauts. We want to work
Okay,
on
okay.
another anthology. Our goal, we've had the anthology from the first class of fellows 2020. So our goal is to hopefully every year have an anthology from a different class of fellows. So class of 2021 would be next, and hopefully we can get that going sometime soon.
That's what the people want to hear.
Yeah.
All right, that's exciting. Yeah, I was like, if you wasn't gonna mention it, I was gonna ask. I was just gonna be like, okay, folks want to know. Alrighty, and so my last question that I got for you tonight before we turn over to the audience for a Q&A is, so if we bring you back, let's say, I don't know, a year or maybe 5 years from now, with your next book, this epic fantasy, or maybe another book that you come up with in the process, what would you want to tell yourself? I feel like folks always say, like, what would you tell your 13-year-old, your kid self? But I'm like, I don't know. Let's like mix it up a little bit. What would you tell yourself in the
Yeah.
future when you come back and we do this for round two?
Yeah. I think just being present in the moment and enjoying this. I think a lot of the times I think about, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And rushing, to do the next thing and not enjoying the current thing. So just, sitting still, sitting in it, marinating on the stories that you're writing, currently, and don't be in any rush to do the next thing, and just enjoy being present in the moment.
All right. So we're gonna cut this and we're gonna slice it back in the future. Be like, pull up
Yeah.
the pull up the video. And so how do you feel about this? Yeah, it'll be great. I'm super excited and like hopefully then we ask you again what you would say to yourself in the future.
Mm.
All right, so that is it for what I have for you today. Eva, I want to thank you for like doing this with us. This was like our first one that like, we got canceled with Brent and we had to redo it really quickly. I was gonna hit you up for like a later one, but I was like,
Yeah.
let's just shuffle it around. I didn't want to like not do it after we've been trying to have some offerings to sort of engage with folks that are like alumnus or not with FIYAH and that want to be a part of us as well. So cool. We can just switch over to folks. If y'all got a question, you have to raise your hand or drop it in the chat and I can bring you up on the screen too. One sec, Sonia. I'm gonna pull you up. Oh well, if I could figure it out. One, it will. Okay, cool. Yeah. There we go. All right, Sonia, go ahead.
All right. Hi, Yvette. One of the questions that I like to ask fellow writers or other creatives, especially because we all come from so many different places, what was it that drew you specifically to the speculative genres early on?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So, I initially, I'd mentioned I was writing realism. I did not touch spec at all, and that's because of what the stories that I was reading. A lot of African literature is, realist, and so that's what I thought I had to do because that's all I was reading. And then I discovered the works of people like Nnedi Okorafor, Akweku Emezi, and Leslie Nekarima, and I was like, wait, Black women can do this. African writers can do this. So reading that gave me permission to, explore it myself because I was seeing other people like me doing that. Like with the Binti trilogy, it's, the first time seeing an African girl in space. I'd never in my life imagined that to be, a possibility. And it's a novella is based off of the Himba tribe, which is a Southern African tribe. I know that tribe, I know, what, their customs. So it was really nice to see that, happening. They have, the red hair and, they use, the smudge to make it red. And, that's in ancient practice. So seeing that on the page was really, really cool that, wow, a Himba girl can be in space. So just seeing it, I was able to imagine it myself. And that's how I ended up kind of pushing the boundaries of my fiction.
Thank you. That's so wonderful.
Yeah, no one, Sonia? Or no? We just got one in the box.
I do.
Go ahead. It's okay. We got time.
Good. If we have time, then good.
Yeah.
So, what do you wish that the Western mainstream understood about, and you can be as specific as saying Zimbabwean or just African speculative fiction? Is there a separation from, like what is the delineation from between that and Western speculative fiction?
So what is like the difference between Western speculative fiction and
Yeah, like what do you wish Westerners understood about African speculative fiction?
Yeah, that takes me back to like, feedback that I've received in creative writing workshop in the USA. So a lot of my early stories, I would hear that, oh, your stories are too didactic. They're too on the nose, dial down, the lesson in the story a little bit because it's too on the nose. And I thought that was a flaw in my own work. And then I started, kind of going back and re-engaging with traditional oral storytelling called Ngano from back home, from back in Zimbabwe. And, a key narrative element of Ngano, these oral fables, is the moral lesson, where you're imparting these traditional belief systems through the story, especially Ubuntu, which is a Southern African philosophy that's often translated to I am because we are, and since we are, therefore I am, that human beings have this symbiotic relationship with each other and the planet, and that you need community. You're not, an island. You need, people and the world and the environment that you live in order to survive. And so a lot of the stories always harken back to Ubuntu. And so I was like, wait, so that's a key narrative element of traditional African stories. And, that was showing up in my own work. And I realized it wasn't a flaw. It was just, a narrative element from, my own storytelling traditions. So I think what I would like, I guess, Western readers to know is that there are multiple ways of telling a story, and that just because you don't recognize something doesn't mean it's a flaw or it's an incorrect way of approaching a story. And reading widely can show you that there's so many multiple ways of doing stuff. So, read beyond your borders, read, speculative fiction from Asia, from, Africa, from the Caribbean, and just broaden your horizon and see that, there are different ways that people approach storytelling.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful question. Thank you.
Claudia, do you want to come up, or do you want me just to ask a question for you?
Sure. I just wanted to know, what's your writing practice? Are you a morning person? Are you a whenever I get a minute person? How does it work for you?
I try to be a morning person, but that's usually not very successful. So what has been helpful for me is actually community. So I write a lot with my French and guys who also co-founded the Voodoonauts. So we get together on Zoom and we write. And I do this thing called morning pages, but I don't do it in the morning. So morning pages is, writing, make sure that you write 3 pages, stream of conscious. And so when I get together on Zoom with my writing buddies, I always make sure, okay, I need to get like 3 pages in when we do the writing session. And then we also use like writing sprints, like the Pomodoro technique. So, 30 or 30 to 45 minutes of writing, and then 5 to 15 minutes of just chilling and talking about what we're writing. Sometimes we even say, okay, read your favorite line that you wrote in the last writing sprint, and then you read your favorite line. You kind of get that hype from your friends that allows you to go back in and write again. So that's really helpful. Just writing in community usually helps me to stay on track.
Thank you.
Cool. Does anybody else have any questions for you, Yvette?
I have one more.
Okay, cool.
All right. I'm very curious about no matter where you go, there's always kind of a scene, like a sci-fi scene, the speculative fiction community, right? So what does the speculative fiction scene in Zimbabwe look like right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. Because like again, a lot of African literature is, very realist. So, back home, I really struggled with, finding any, fantasy, because I think right now the big explosion is in literary fiction. But I think a lot of us are actually starting to explore a little more. Most recently, Yvette Lisa Ndlovu, who's been writing a lot of realist, kind of suddenly experimented and used animal characters in her work in the novel Glory. So it was kind of good to see kind of like those fables showing up in her work. So I think a lot of writers are now actually experimenting and dabbling. And I think it's because for a long time what we saw was the realist space. And now we're seeing, okay, other people that are doing this. So, there's now that experimentation coming. So I think the next couple of years are going to be super exciting for speculative fiction as more and more writers experiment with speculative fiction.
That's going to be very interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, Yvette, I actually got one question for you before we get out of here. My question is are you going to, I guess, well, you're doing fantasy. Are you looking to do any other like specific genre like either like cyberpunk or maybe like or hard science fiction. Because I know sometimes like the when we do like Afrofuturists or Afrosurrealism, we kind of have genre blend a little bit. We kind of taking like from or the spec. I guess that's what spec fic is basically. But yeah, are you planning to maybe outside of the epic fantasy like hone in on any of the specific genres like romance or like a poetry collection or anything? We're
Ooh,
just like I know I already asked you about what the future holds, but I was like kind of question
yeah.
kind of tickled a little bit into me. I was like, oh wait a minute, like
Mhm.
yeah, let's get
Yeah, no, you're speaking to my soul right now because I do like to like jump between genres. So I want to experiment and do different things. So I want to do an alien invasion novella, but using folk magic. So I can't say too much about that project because it's right now it's at the back burner. But I'm excited
no,
to
that's
finally
real.
be able to still like work on that. I also want to do a romance, and that one would be realist, but maybe it might change. It might be a paranormal romance. Who knows? And then what else am I working on? And also, I've been thinking a lot about cozy fantasy and hope punk, and what would an African, cozy fantasy look like where there's, you know, not a lot of trauma going on, and it's just slice of life and joyful. So that's something that I want to work on is a lot more cozy fantasy and hope punk and kind of see like what would a Zimbabwean hope punk story look like. And yeah, so that's another one that I want to tackle.
No, those all sound good. I was definitely thinking of like because I think maybe 2 years ago on our list
Mm.
of themes for FIYAH was supernatural romance. And I kind of want to put that back on there,
Ooh.
like to see if we can get it, because I think that'd be good too. I just like I feel like we haven't seen I don't know if a short story place has done one recently, but I feel like we
Mm.
haven't had all black one. So but
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my God. That would be so nice. No,
no,
please.
yeah. I'm
Make
like,
that
we're
happen.
plotting, we're plotting, I promise.
Make that happen just for me, please.
Okay. Once again, I want to thank you for coming on here for our first author interview. If you all haven't yet, please go buy the book, Drinking from the Graveyard Wells. It's available on Amazon and IndieBound and Bookshelf
Bookshop. Yeah.
and Bookshop. And yeah, or you could just, check the Instagram, check the Google, all the good things. This is great. Obviously, we're gonna have Yvette back again. And maybe the whole Voodoonauts, we'll see what happens. Yeah,
Yes,
we
very
plotting some things.
nice.
But no, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with us. This is gonna go on YouTube after, and obviously social media. So I appreciate you all, and particularly you, Yvette, for just taking time out to speak with me and us on here. Thanks again.
Mm.
Any last words
Yeah.
for the world?
No, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun. And go support FIYAH. FIYAH is awesome. Go get the artwork from the artist. And yeah, just FIYAH is everything. And I have so much love for FIYAH.
All right, we appreciate you. All right, y'all. We see y'all soon for our next one. Stay tuned for that announcement. Um, Again, my name is Christian, also known as AG Dub on socials. And again, check us out at FIYAH Lit Mag on everything now, pretty much, except TikTok. I'm not getting on TikTok. That's evil.
No, please get on TikTok. You must be
It's evil. I'm like, I can't. I just feel like I'm already in the trenches.
uh,
And I'm like, if
yeah.
I could just hold out on one of them, it's gonna be that one.
Okay.
All
I'll
right,
be the
but
first to follow you know when you get a TikTok.
okay. I have to remember that. We might have to actually do something. I mean, the book talk is taking over now. I don't know. Let me not even see,
Yeah.
you haven't even thinking about it. Okay, everybody. I appreciate y'all.